And more and more I'm seeing the value in returning to those same institutions, because one of the other things she challenged the project to do under the Expanding Educational Horizons was to see how quickly we could recognize those schools that were performing well and graduate them so that they could be the multiplier and impact other schools while we work with the lower performing schools. And that set about the establishment of those standards that we set up for the graduation of schools, standards for students, standards for teachers, standards for school management. And it has really help the project to expand. So yes, it is, and I'm saying this in this audience, that don't think that 2 to 3 years is going to fix it. It won't. Because even now we're still having challenges. Some schools have made it and they have slipped. And you have to go back. And the thing is that I'm also seeing what I said in my first presentation, that we can't work in silos. We have to engage a collaborative community because it requires everybody. Now, when we do training, we involve all the education officers that support our schools. We involve all the ETT coordinators in literacy and numeracy, because when we come to an end, somebody must carry that baton on. So it's not a quick fix, and it will take a long time. Going now to what already exists, and why are we slow in adopting some of the things that existed? I can't answer that, Hopeton. I know we have experienced that. I don't know if because many of our products are homegrown, and we have a challenge with looking at what's homegrown. I think of the JSAS, a powerful tool that the learning curve for teachers to use this tool is so steep. Because at first we said, well, at least one person in the school must be able to use this tool to input student data and analyze. And we pushed the principals of the school to use and analyze the data. Then we said at least 2 teachers in the school. And we kept moving the bar, the bar, 2 teachers in every school. Now we're saying every teacher in every school, and we're 86% compliant with every teacher in our schools using the tool.
It's, they're teaching positions, and some teachers hold 2 or 3. So we don't really know how many teachers there are. We don't know, for example, whether some schools are running under capacity, whether they have 10 teachers and 5 students, or they have 100 students and 10 teachers. A lot of that information is very inaccurate, and that's a problem. It's one of these things that really should be one of the foundations of beginning an effective teacher management. Even before we start talking about more sophisticated ways of evaluating teachers, there are oftentimes basic things that are lacking. I think the problem of not being able to attract and maintain qualified teachers is certainly a big issue, and some of these incentive reforms are geared towards trying to remediate that problem. Now, if you look at the McKinsey report, I highly recommend it. It's up on the web. You can download it. One of the key factors of why systems such as Korea, Singapore, Finland, Ireland, etc., have done really well, even when, as economists say, controlling for other factors, which means holding everything constant, which is in itself something to be disputed, but taking, for a minute, just doing that, taking that at face value, one of the factors that stands out in those systems is how they select and how they train their teachers. And let me just give you an example. In Finland and Korea, and this is in the report, 1 out of 6 in Singapore and 1 out of 10 in Finland, or the other way around, I can't remember, of job applicants actually get the job. So it's a very competitive job. Now, to even be able to qualify for that job in Finland and Singapore, you need to be in the top 20% of your graduating class. If your grades from university are not in the top 20 or 30%, don't even show up. They take a test. It's the first filter, and if they pass the test, they can go on to teacher training. This is even before the training starts to happen. So once it's a very rigorous process. It involves not just testing, it involves, in some cases, in some countries, teachers have to present a class to a board, and they're judging teachers on how well because it's a lot about verbal ability, a lot of things you cannot test in a standardized test. So the processes are really rigorous, and no wonder once they go to teacher training, they've already been very well selected, and they get the training, and of course they end up becoming really good teachers. Now the salaries, one of the biggest incentives is the salary, are paid accordingly. The salaries are really high. Now, a lot of these are pretty equitable societies, so almost everybody gets paid high, but the salaries can only be set at that level when the ministry or whoever's in charge can actually demand and can actually select who is going to teach. And the same goes for leadership, for school principals. You see, I think the big question for our countries is, we don't, of course, the working conditions in those schools are great. All the schools have great facilities. I mean, these are places where people want to work at, because, you know, not just your sense of contributing to society, but you're actually working in a very good environment. I think the challenge for our countries is how do you get to that point? Because it's so expensive to improve infrastructure in all the schools. It's so expensive to make up for a lot of these problems that kids, even when they start the first grade, a lot of them are coming from very sort of disadvantaged backgrounds, no early stimulation, a lot of just deficiencies to begin with. They're already in a different level. So I think that's the challenge. And incentives are a way, targeted incentives are a way to get at the point of trying to improve teaching, but on the other hand, realizing that there's never gonna, or at least not in the short term, and even the less now, going to be enough resources to really improve the system for everybody, all the schools, and really make it look like Finland or Singapore or Korea.
Thank you. I'm going to give Mr. Henry the final word.
I emphasize the whole issue of leadership. Quite a number of our high-performing principals are going to be leaving the system shortly. There is the issue of succession planning, which we must put on the table. We have some very young, bright persons out there, and we need to target these persons for recruitment and training. And the way the system is set up now, and I'm not sure whether we can do that effectively, but a system will have to be set up where we can target these persons, select them, train them, and recruit them, and then try to retain them. Thank you very much.
And just to underscore the point that Mr. Henry has just made, it seems to me that there was a crop of people in the 60s, from the 60s high schools, in high school, and the early 70s, who have formed the bulk of the leadership. And it's almost like a body move, a wave, that they're retiring right now. And I think this is a threat to education in the country. We need to pay attention to it. We can counter that problem.
Okay, I'm going to be summing up. I want to thank all of you for being here, and I'm very happy that I didn't have to be very dictatorial and cut off anybody, which I was planning to do, but you've been very cooperative. The title of this session was Rewarding Success, Tackling Failure, and I think we all agreed that there are many successful schools in Jamaica, and we have some really wonderful teachers in Jamaica. But at the same time, there are some elements of failure, and we have to tackle that. Now, one of the things coming out of this session was the question, what's the goal? What are we trying to achieve? And there's no easy answer. I mean, we all agreed here that there needed to be an improvement in the system, and we needed to raise the standard of our students. But the question is, what are we raising it to? Should it be 4 CXCs, or should it be more than that? Should it be something that's more multidimensional? Those are questions that are still there.